Welcome to Arkansas Wildlife. Duck season is a big deal in the natural state. We sell roughly 100,000 duck stamps annually in Arkansas. And while duck season is a big deal, there's another species of waterfowl that's grabbing the attention of many Arkansas hunters, including us here at Arkansas Wildlife TV. This week, we're headed out to the Grand Prairie south of Stuttgart with our old buddy Steele Jessup to hunt white-fronted geese, or as they're more commonly known in these parts, specklebellies. And finally, one of the best things about hunting specklebelly geese is what happens after the hunt. They're known as one of the waterfowl world's tastiest species. We'll put that theory to the test when we take our specklebelly geese into the kitchen in this week's final segment. All that and this week's winner of a free hunting and fishing license right after this break. Arkansas Wildlife is brought to you in part by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Right stuff, low price, every day. Academy. That's a good sign. Steele Jessup has been guiding for these white-fronted geese for several years, and we've joined him. I think this is our 4th or 5th year in a row to hunt with him down on the Grand Prairie south of Stuttgart. And you know, we've done this show before, but it's just such a good time. It's hard to pass up this kind of opportunity. Once again, the white-fronted geese did not disappoint. It's an afternoon hunt, which is pretty cool because you don't have to get up real early and set up in the dark. It all happens during the middle of the day, so you can see what you're doing. This year's hunt was a little bit different in that we had quite a bit of rainfall right before the hunt, so this soybean field that had been harvested actually had a lot of water in the spot where we were hunting, so it was a little bit messier than usual when we set up. Typically, it's just a dry land hunt, and so it's really easy to walk around out there and get set up. A little bit of trudging through the mud and a little sloppy this year. It's not just a matter of showing up and throwing out a couple of dozen decoys like you would maybe on a duck hunt. You do have to put a few decoys out. Steele Jessup uses usually about 12 dozen full-body specklebelly decoys, so it takes a little bit of setup, and of course there's some tactical nature to the way he deploys the decoys. You have to take the wind into consideration and you know, sort of create a pocket in the middle where you want the birds to land. Still though, a lot easier than putting out several hundred or up to 1,000 full-body snow goose decoys for a snow goose conservation hunt, for example. Steele Jessup does this numerous days throughout the goose season, so we just follow his lead. He'll typically look at the wind direction and the sun and where we're going to set up the blinds, and then kind of decide how he wants the spread to look. Also looks at the way the geese were sitting in that field before we got there, and we'll try to mimic that as much as possible. But being rank amateurs that we are, we just let him decide where they go, and we just put the decoys on the stakes. Typically, we hunt these white-fronted geese out of layout blinds. They're a very low profile. It helps you really blend into the surrounding vegetation. You want the area to look the same way it did when you got there. So once you get the blinds laid in, you want to go pull grass and bushes and things out of the surrounding vegetation and place that all around those blinds, so where you really just look like a clump of weeds, and those geese are going to have no idea that you're even there. Once the decoys have been placed, the blinds have been set up and brushed in, you really crawl in, and it's just a matter of waiting for the birds to show up. But typically on these specklebelly hunts, you don't have to wait very long. Going to make a point out of everything. If you're unfamiliar with layout blinds, just imagine hunting out of a coffin. That's essentially what they are. They're shaped that way, and you're lying on your back. It's a little bit tricky. It takes some getting used to. Coming up out of the blind with your shotgun safely and then finding the birds can be difficult. There's so much brush around you that you really don't see what's going on. You have to rely on the guide to tell you, all right, they're going to be out front or at 3 o'clock or at 9 o'clock or wherever, but he's really the only one that can see. He's calling the birds, and when he calls a shot, you got to come up and quickly figure out, oh, here they are or there they are, and then pick one out and make a shot. We brought our old buddy Steve Wildman Wilson along for this hunt. You know, Wildman retired earlier in the year, but he had to be a part of this Specklebelly Goose hunt. He wanted to continue that tradition with us, so we let him come along. The thing that I really like about hunting Specklebelly geese is that it's a lot like duck hunting, and I love duck hunting. You know, snow geese, you have to put out just hundreds and hundreds of decoys. There's really big groups, and to get them to really work is, you know, work your spread and come in for a landing is really hard. Not so much with specklebellies. Yeah, I mean, sure, you have to be able to call and you have to have some decoys out there to attract them, but they really respond well to calling and they respond well to decoys, and they circle around and use the wind much like ducks do. So it's really just sort of a variation of duck hunting. Man, when you get a big group of specklebellies working around the spread and you're waiting for the guide to call the shot,
get 'em out front.
It can get to be pretty exciting. Arkansas is the duck hunting capital of the world, so I doubt that white-fronted goose or specklebelly hunting will ever take the place of duck hunting and mallard hunting, particularly here in Arkansas. But they sure are a fun and exciting way to expand your waterfowl hunting horizons here in the natural state.
Arkansas Wildlife is brought to you in part by the Arkansas Game and Fish Foundation. Support wildlife and conservation education in the natural state. Become a member today.
Arkansas has a well-deserved reputation for incredible duck hunting, and you know, we're blessed by geography, the confluence of rivers like the Arkansas, the White, and the Mississippi, the Cache, the St. Francis, the Langill. I mean, we're just set up to be a wintering area for ducks. But you know, the eastern third of the state is mainly agricultural land, and a lot of those agricultural lands are attracting more white-fronted geese than ever before. It's obvious that more and more Arkansas waterfowlers are taking advantage of the increased number of specklebelly geese in the state. You know, anecdotally, you can go to sporting goods stores and you see more goose equipment like decoys and the larger shot sizes that goose hunters use. But we also know from harvest statistics that Arkansas hunters are taking a lot more of these birds now than they were, you know, 10 or 15 years ago. The reason for this upswing and increased hunting activity and increased harvest of white-fronted geese, a couple of things going on there. Number one, there are just more of the birds. Population estimates have increased substantially over the past couple of decades. The presence of large numbers of white-fronted geese in Arkansas is a relatively new thing. I mean, as recently as the 1970s, during aerial waterfowl surveys, we didn't count any white-fronted geese. During the 2015 count, there was one survey where we counted more than 600,000 specklebelly geese in the eastern third of Arkansas. Number two is a change in distribution, a change in wintering patterns. More and more of these birds are staying in Arkansas as opposed to going all the way down to the Gulf Coast. A lot less rice acreage and flooded agricultural habitat in those coastal areas of Texas and Louisiana than there was, say, even 10, 15 years ago. Another reason that white-fronted geese are gaining in popularity among Arkansas waterfowlers is that they're relatively easy to hunt. especially compared to snow blue and Ross's geese. You know, those snow geese travel in flocks of literally thousands and thousands of birds. So when you have that many eyeballs to pick apart your spread and your hiding spot, it's a little bit difficult. It requires, you know, hundreds, if not 1,000 plus decoys, and that's a lot of work. White-fronted geese don't take that much. While you can put out, you know, several dozen decoys, sometimes, you know, 6 or a dozen or a couple dozen decoys will do the trick. They also work a lot like ducks. They, you know, circle your spread, respond to calls, much better than those big flocks of snow geese. Perhaps the biggest attraction to hunting specklebellies or white-fronted geese is their value for the dinner table. They've been called the ribeye of the sky or flying filet mignon, whatever you want to call them. Yeah. I call them delicious. Coming up after the break, we're going to cook some specklebellies grilled with a raspberry chipotle sauce to drizzle on top. Hey, welcome to my kitchen. We're gonna cook grilled specklebelly goose breast with a raspberry chipotle sauce today. We've been on some great hunts over the years, and this is really a pretty simple recipe, not much to it. All we're gonna do really is just grill the meat and then prepare this sauce and drizzle over it. Very simple. So let's get started. First thing we've got is some salt and pepper to put on our breast halves here. I've got 2 jalapenos, chipotles. Chipotles are a smoke-dried jalapeno that's preserved in a sauce called adobo. We've got half of a shallot chopped up, about a 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar. We've got our goose breast, obviously. Got about a 1/2 cup of raspberry preserves. You can do this with fresh raspberries and honey and sugar, but basically we let them take a couple of steps out of the process for us using the raspberry preserves. Got a little bit of orange juice. I'm actually using bitter orange, and then a little bit of olive oil that we're gonna use to get our sauce started. First thing we're gonna do though is just season our goose breast with a little bit of salt and pepper and get those right. You know, specklebelly doesn't require a lot of marination. I brine these in some salt water overnight, but you know, these geese taste great pretty much by themselves. You really don't even need the sauce, but just gonna kind of give us a little sweet and savory to go along with the great natural flavor of this meat here. Okay, now let's go outside to the grill and grill these specklebelly goose breasts. Pretty simple out here. We've got a charcoal fire in the grill. You can use a gas grill, it doesn't matter. I just prefer charcoal, and I use an applewood charcoal because it adds imparts a little bit of flavor to the meat. Pretty simple. We're just gonna put the specklebelly breast halves on the grill here and cook them for about 4 to 5 minutes on each side. We've got a meat thermometer. We're gonna go until they reach an internal temperature of about 125 to 130 degrees. They're gonna be nice and pink on the inside still. Probably gonna carry over and cook about another 5 degrees as the meat's resting while we cook our sauce. But you know, hey, if you know how to grill, you can do this part of it. We've just got some salt and pepper on the breasts, and we're gonna just let those cook for a few minutes. Cook them to about medium rare. They're getting pretty good on the one side. We're gonna flip them over now. Now, there's a lot of debate about this. I like to just flip one time. I think when you get to flipping over and over and over, you start to lose some of your juices in the meat, and it tends to dry out. And with wild game, like specklebelly geese in particular, you don't want to dry it out because it's going to be plenty dry already. All right, about 4 or 5 minutes on each side. You know, that's going to vary depending on the heat of your grill, how many charcoal briquettes you use, you know, the level of the flame in your gas grill, whatever. But you can't go wrong with a good meat thermometer. I know that these are between 125, 130 degrees, so that's just about right. They're probably gonna get 4 or 5 degrees warmer as we let them rest. So that's all we're gonna do now. We're gonna take these inside, and while they rest, we're gonna make our raspberry chipotle sauce. Okay, we've got our olive oil heated up here over medium-high heat. We're gonna add our shallots. Cook those for about 1 minute to 2 minutes. Kind of want to keep an eye on it. They start to kind of become translucent.
going to let us know that we're ready to go on to the next step. You want to keep them moving. They don't stick or get too charred. A little bit of color is going to be okay, but you don't want to burn them. Okay, getting nicely colored there. Starting to kind of clear. To this, we're going to add our chipotles chopped up. It's going to add a nice smoky flavor and some heat and zest to our sauce. Man, that smells great. Those chipotles are going to provide the heat, the spice, the savory, and our raspberry preserves are going to provide the sweet. Okay, about a minute on those. We're going to add our apple cider vinegar. Kind of bring all that together. We're going to basically let that vinegar sort of cook down, reduce, meld all those flavors together. It's usually going to take about a minute to 2 minutes to get that consistency that you want, almost a paste. Okay, we're going to add our raspberry preserves, about a half a cup. That's going to add our sweetness to offset some of the spiciness and heat that we're going to have from those chipotles. Also going to give it a beautiful, rich, reddish purple color. Get to a pretty good consistency there. We're going to cook this down. Our last step is going to be to add a little bit of our orange juice. It's also going to cut a little bit of that sweetness. Really, we're just going to keep stirring it and let it cook on a medium high to high heat. Basically going to reduce it down to where it becomes a little bit thicker. It's essentially going to be like a little syrup that we're going to pour over those goose breasts. Yeah, now it's really starting to bubble good. See how we're getting good and hot there, and get those flavors good and concentrated. We're getting very close to where we need to be. It's really a pretty simple way to dress up an already incredible dish, which is grilled specklebelly goose. All right, we're about to the consistency we need now. It's taking about 5 minutes to get here, and our geese should be good and rested. So let's go back over, slice up our geese, and we'll drizzle this over the top. That's the last step. Okay, the meat's rested, the sauce is done. We're just gonna carve this up, drizzle a little sauce on top, plate it, we're ready to eat. Oh yeah, babe, that's just about right. Look at that. We're gonna cut it really thin, still pretty pink on the inside. Man, that's just the way you want it. The biggest mistake a lot of people make with wild game, waterfowl in particular, is cooking it too long, and it's just such lean meat that it's gonna dry out and get tough if you cook it too long. Some people don't like medium rare. I wouldn't go anything beyond about medium though. So, we'll lay these on here and drizzle a little of this raspberry chipotle sauce on top. A couple little spots, make it pretty. And there we go. Grilled specklebelly goose with raspberry chipotle sauce. Arkansas Wildlife presents the 2016 Watch and Win giveaway. During each first run episode of Arkansas Wildlife, we'll give away an Arkansas resident hunting and fishing license, a $35.50 value provided by Academy Sports and Outdoors. At the end of the year, we'll award the 2016 Grand Prize, a lifetime hunting and fishing license provided by Electric Cooperatives of Arkansas, along with $1,000 worth of sporting goods gift cards provided by the Arkansas Game and Fish Foundation. Here's how it works. Visit the Game and Fish Commission's website at agfc.com and click on the Arkansas Wildlife icon to enter. This week's winner is Greg Spann of Bauxite. Congratulations, Greg, and thanks for watching.